Hi, everybody. Thank you all for being here on a Sunday evening. Today, unfortunately, is our last day for the design week, and the conversation is all about visual design and of course, more. For the people that are here for the first time, welcome to this event, which is called SuperDistrict. SuperDistrict is a series of online meetups that we started during the lockdown to see new faces and, of course, to get to know each other during a phase where we couldn't go out here in Italy. We started, of course, with the Italian studios, and for the design week, we wanted to open it up to international studios as well. A little bit about us. We are District. We are a creative platform that gives opportunities to designers and companies. We are based in Italy. I'm Hassan, and this is Maria Francesca. We also have Marta, which is part of the team here.
Hi, everyone.
For the new people that are here today, we have, so SuperDistrict is a time for exchange, of course. It's done in aperitivo time, so you're welcome to drink. And don't be shy, and let's enjoy. So if you have questions, please write it down in the chat. We'll give you the microphone. And if you have also if you have these questions, please put the video so we can actually understand who you are and see who you are, of course. So today we have with us Accurat, data visualization, design, research and innovation studio based between Milan and New York. So guys, thank you very much to be with us, and I leave the stage for you, and cheers.
Cheers to all of you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So I think I will start just first of all, thank you so much for inviting us, of course. And I think that in the people there are maybe somebody that will join from the studio, but mainly Elisa, Tommaso, and I will be presenting. So I will leave. Say hi.
Hello.
Show yourself.
Hi. Hello.
We will. I will have a little introduction about the studio. I will show you our first projects, and after that, Elisa and Tommaso will follow with their part. So we will switch a bit between the presentations. So let me just start from the beginning and share my screen. So you should see my presentation, right?
Yeah.
Try again to share it.
Okay, let me try another time. So share screen here. Perfect.
Okay.
Perfect.
Okay.
We can see it now.
Perfect. So as you already said, we are Accurat. We are a design studio based in Milano and New York. We were born in 2011. So it's been like 9 years that we have been working in the design field. And we are now a team of about 40 people. So we can start considering ourselves not anymore a small studio, but at the same time, not a really big one. So we are not a huge agency. Across the world, we are like in between the two realities. And in these years, we have been working with, let's say, any kind of reality in the world in terms of field of study and field of business, of course. So we have been working with technology corporations, fashion, finance, banks, media, editorial staff. We have been working really in basically in all of the fields that you can think about. And this is like a little show reel that I will try to play while I speak about this. This is just to show you that we really like to take care of projects about very different stuff. So this is a show reel that we will see different projects about different agents and companies. They are more, this is useful to explain a bit that Accurat usually work in, let's say, 2 to 3 different areas. One is the business analytics, let's say. So building up tools and application useful to decision making. The other area is basically using data and information for communication. So data art, brand identities and stuff like this. And the third one, a little small one, is for research. So we collaborate with university and research team to working with data and to understand and study stuff like this. So the overall elements in common with all our project, of course, is the data. So we work with information and we try to visually represent data and information. So we start from the information design. We are, of course, specialized in data visualization, but at the same time, and Elisa and Tommaso that are with us today are the example of, since they are experienced designer and I work mainly with data visualization, we are the example of the fact that as Accurat, we needed to work on different fields and to include different kind of skills in our team. So we are a team of designers, developers, data scientists. So we include any kind of people that are interested and skilled to work with data and information. And the first project, yeah, of course, one thing that usually when you think about data and information comes out is that there is a lot of complexity. And the fact is that, of course, we work and we live in a complex world and in a complex society. And the fact is that as Accurat working with data, we like the idea of finding a way to make complexity accessible. We don't like the idea of simplifying things. We like the idea of making it readable for people. So we like and we love the idea of working with complexity and trying to find a way to make it visible and understandable. First project that I'm going to show you is one that we've been working with IBM for the last years. And everything started in 2015, 2016, when the IBM design team decided to bring back the culture of design that IBM, as I think you will know, that they had in the 60s and in the 70s, working with the best designers ever. And they had this huge culture of design, and they realized that they wanted to bring that back. And they started working on what they called a living language. So a sort of design language able to, let's say, make all of the products from IBM consistent and to make them work together, and most of them to make everything feel like IBM. So they wanted to bring back that kind of feeling. And they called us to, since they realized that in all of their products and applications, they had a strong part in data visualization. So they are super technical, of course. And in each one of their applications, they had this kind of component that they wanted to feel like IBM, not even just the design, the visual design of the products and the application, but at the same time, also the charts. So we were super excited. Of course, we were super excited about working with IBM. At the same time, a bit scared, since you don't want to, let's say, like kill Paul Rand or stuff like this with your work. So we were super happy, and we tried in the first place to build up a sort of design language for visualization, for charts that took inspiration from their poster, from their old design, and tried to apply that kind of style and features to the chart themselves. So we had like this kind of chart, the visual model we build up coming from their posters, for instance, or we designed a sign motion principle, interaction principle that came from how their machines used to work and used to move in the 70s and the 60s. So old hard drives, printers and stuff like this, punch cards. So we were trying to get inspired with their machines and trying to get the feeling of working machines, since IBM is really something, a kind of corporation built up on things that work, basically. So we build up different kind of charts, of course. This is just, I'm going a bit fast here, because this is like the first part of the project, the one we did in 2016, because actually we build up these charts, we apply different features and concepts to elements. For instance, here you can see this element on the right here that is inspired. This is like a matrix inspired by the punch cards. So we try to replicate the kind of feeling that you have with the IBM machines in these kind of things. But the interesting part is that their visual language is constantly evolving. So last year, they published the new version of it. So they started all over again, and they built up a proper design system. And at that point, our pages, our work were not consistent enough to be there. So we worked together again in the last month to update it and to make it work better, because actually this new design system is totally comprehensible about buttons, icons, everything you can think of in mobile application, or desktop application, tablet application, everything. And in this design system is where the IBM Plex come from. So the IBM Plex, the font that they are using is the first element that came out from the design system. So, and it will also, to give credits, this is all managed by the great Mike Adbink, which is their lead designer in charge for all of this. So we have been super honored to work with him and his team. And the fact is that what we'll build up, so following the new design language, we have been working with them again to follow the new lead they have and to create these new pages and rules. So this is a sort of, and you can search for it. If you look for the design language, you will find the database pages. They are now based on like three layers of complexity. So starting from how can I do data visualization, since this design language is published, but it's in the first place, it was conceived to be in help for IBM designers. So we will try to teach to the designers how to do data visualization. So we got this high-level principle, we got how to make charts, we got complex and basic charts. This is much bigger than this also because we are working on the developer side with them to build up their charts. So we are working on 360 degrees right now on everything. So we build up these pages, these charts, this visual model that they are both consistent in terms of style, but at the same time consistent in terms of how they work. So it's a complex system for IBM that we try to make it work in the last years, and we are super honored that this kind of project has been evolving in the last 4 years. This is something that we like a lot in terms of, this is one of that kind of cooperation that lasts. And in data visualization, it's more common that you may be working on a project, you solve a problem and that's it. But we are trying to build up with clients this kind of relationship where we have years of collaboration instead of maybe one single project. So I think that this is the last one for IBM. I think, yeah, this is where we'll leave Tommaso to talk about this. So yeah, basically that's it. It's a much more complex and it's a bit hard to explain it in like 5 minutes, but the main part is that it's interesting to see data visualization and the interest in data visualization coming from a big corporation such as IBM to be considered as so important and relevant in decision making, in visual appearing, in brand identity, and to feel like IBM. This was something that we were super proud to work on. So Tommaso, I think I will leave you from here.
Okay, go.
Oh yeah, if there are any kind of questions, of course, feel free to interrupt.
I would like to know like how many people of you were working on this, like only and how you split the work between the Milanese studio and the New Yorker one. Like, so you work on the same things together, or you split?
Well, what happens is that the New York office right now is mainly a commercial point. So we have 2 of our partners. And of course, we got Georgia and Gabriele. Georgia, as you might know, last year became partner at Pentagram as well. So yes, we are trying to make this collaboration working out. But in New York, we basically have Georgia and Gabriele, and all of the team, over the other part of the team, so the other 38 people are in Milan, right?
Wow. Okay.
So we moved to New York City maybe to have a couple of meetings with clients, to maybe have the kickoff of the project, to know each other in person, which is something important. But mainly the whole team working out is in Milano.
Okay.
I want to ask you something, like IBM came to you because you are focused on data visualization. Yeah. So they're actually, so they already knew that they wanted to have this, let's say, this project in this way for their brand identity, right?
Yeah, they wanted to have like a sort of guidance in how to make things work. So they needed to have their designer to be, let's say, to get more experience in data visualization and to have like a guidance from, let's say, expert in the fields. And at the same time, they didn't know how to do that properly to make it feel like what they wanted. So they had an idea, they had a design language, they had already colors, they had fonts, they have everything, but they were missing the data visualization part.
Okay.
Okay, Tom?
Yeah, here I am.
Okay.
So I can share if you, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, let me know if you can see my screen.
Yes.
Yes, we can.
Cool. Okay, so the first project I will talk to you about is 2 years old. It's from 2018, but it's pretty current because, as you know, yesterday night Trump's rally began again in Tulsa with all the controversies attached to it. And so 2 years ago, Knight Foundation, which is a nonprofit research group, tagged us to create a project based on a very extensive research that they did together with Graphica, which is an agency that deals with social media analysis. And they basically asked us to create a story and an interactive experience around this paper that was about an extensive network of both accounts, fake accounts, and like mercenary accounts that basically inundated Twitter with fake news during the 2016 presidential elections in USA. And they asked us to come out with this project on 2018 in the verge of the midterm elections in November. So we had to basically create this new project on like to divulge, to better publish and make the biggest quantity of people possible know about this kind of study and this kind of things that were going on, to inform people. And so not just specialists, but people, everyday people, about what was going on Twitter and related to this kind of situation. They came to us with a couple of rough stuff produced by Graphica, and namely this is the first one. This is a static network mapping of the 14,000 accounts that created the final core network, but actually they started by analyzing 10 million tweets from 700,000 accounts that were linking to around 600 fake news media outlets. Then they shrunk the network down to the core, and it's this is the core. So it's about 14,000 accounts that were linked, that had linked at least 10 times to fake news outlets, and that were really intertwined. And so here you see the network, and every dot you see is actually a cluster. So it contains tens or hundreds of accounts, and they're color coded by the kind of themes and agenda that the specific cluster was bringing forward. So you had like the Trump supporters, you had the European right, then you also had Russian boats, and all these kind of different categorizations. The second kind of map that they provided us with was this, which is called the chronotope. And it's basically a map that was static, of course, that has on the x-axis time. And you see like the vertical white bars are days. And so you see you have 24 hours between vertical bars. And then on the y-axis, you have clusters of these groups, clusters of accounts that are color-coded by the kind of themes and topics that they were pushing on Twitter. And you can see how this visualization doesn't look really human. I mean, every time you see a cell, a little tile light up in a color, it means that at least one account inside that specific cluster tweeted a specific hashtag on that specific point in time. So when you see them light up at the same time, like over on the first section, you see basically them pushing content nonstop for 24 hours, and this is not a human behavior. So that was what they were trying to basically make people know about. So the fact that there is a way of understanding, of telling basically bots from true accounts. And so they asked us to help them divulge this kind of story, but without having to actually share a 60-page PDF with those kind of static maps, because that was something really for specialists of the discipline. And so we were asked to basically create a metaphor, something evocative that could be, could relate with like a wider kind of audience. And so given the platform, so Twitter, we started researching in the kind of imagery of the flocks and birds. In specifically, this one is a simulation of boids. So like the first computerized simulation of flocks, of how the birds assemble in air. And we like this kind of idea because all these accounts, all these clusters basically were moving, we're creating choreographies at the same time, like birds in, you know, when they migrate. And when you think that there is a hidden intelligence there guiding them, but actually there's not. And so we started digging in this kind of imagery to find our metaphor. I will go fast, otherwise I won't leave time for anybody else. So this is the atom, the unit that we designed to represent the cluster, is some kind of a bird, and its feathers are hundreds of accounts. So every time you see a feather, it means 100 accounts contained in that cluster. So the more the feathers, the bigger the cluster. Then the trajectory that you see on the tail, it gives us, it's basically a spark line. We used it as a spark line to communicate volumes. And the color is the affiliation with the group. This is a quick screencast of what we created, the final product. This is this should show you pretty quickly and pretty clearly how these boats behave. They are really rhythmic. They follow a precise pattern that cannot be human. So every time you see these kind of spikes, it means that these all cluster tweeted, or like a few accounts inside it tweeted at the same time in that specific moment. And then when you group all these clusters, you will see a very complicated pattern, but which has a really recognizable shape. And we also used the circular clock to basically wrap our visualization around, to just show that on this specific one, you're seeing on purple, the boats. And so the automated accounts. On light blue, you see the human accounts. And you see how the automated ones create a cross, which is really perfect. And they tweet no matter what. So they tweet during nighttime, while you see that on the right side of your screen, there is no light blue activity. That's because it's nighttime. So most humans sleep, while you see that there is purple activity, while the humans tweet on the left side. We also tried to reinforce this concept by using like a gradient that could give an idea of day and night alternation. So we use the same kind of graph, but with this gradient changing. It was created for desktop first, but we also ported it on mobile, changing and basically creating an ad hoc port for this experience. The interesting thing was that we created, like the study was based on 2016 data, but the project was done on 2018, and the researchers noticed that basically 83% of the network was still active and pushing content like 2 years prior to that, even though Twitter said that they had basically tackled this issue and tried to reduce and obscure, cut, delete the both networks. So 2 years after that, they were still pushing content. So we created this little counter at the end, simulating how many tweets were done like during just the storytelling experience. It's still on, so you can check it out if you want. It's knightfoundation.org/feeders/missinfo. And this is Trump thanking one of his own boats. So it seemed appropriate to close this chapter.
Can you write on chat the website?
Sure.
So,
how can I do that? I wasn't expecting this kind of.
No, after you finish.
I will do it for you. Don't worry.
Okay.
Thank you, Daniel. Save me. Yeah, I will do it. No problem. It's still on, and we hope that it still has some visibility, because I mean the team is still current. I mean, it's like now it's a 2 years old project with a 4 years old data set, but you know, we're in the middle of it again. So it seems that every time Accurat creates a project for the American election, Trump wins. So it happened twice.
So better to not work anymore. Tommaso, this project is very interesting, especially from the fact that you're trying to communicate and trying to let people visualize something that is complex as bots and you know, like this automated behavior that not everybody is aware of. I wanted to ask you, like, I've seen the visuals; they are very stunning. But who was the target? Because I can see like some sort of complexity also, like from the visuals as well. So I wanted to understand, because you also said that the ultimate target were general people, like normal people that didn't have any kind of knowledge about these things. So is that the target? Are you going like, is Knight Foundation going to also like translate these visuals that you made into like a simpler visuals, or how it works? How does it work?
So Knight Foundation has published its paper. So they got their, like, you can basically explode all this kind of story into a really bigger and more articulated paper. Of course, our audience was, of course, trying to be wider than the specialists of the sector. So trying to just get rid of most of the specialistic keywords and kind of tone of voice in a way. So we wanted to create something that could wow the user. Of course, this is in no way an easy kind of visualization to grasp. I mean, we are aware of it, but they also wanted something in a way memorable from the visual standpoint. So we tried to mix and match all these inputs, and we came out, but they were also, they gave us like free room to do whatever we wanted. They weren't very controlling as for the visual output. So that was, but I just showed you a couple of the more articulated models. Here there is also some, like the storytelling is much longer, and so you have, everything is really how you say, explained step by step. So you got text always accompanying you towards the during your journey.
Great. Okay, so we'll check the Knight Foundation the site that you shared to actually see it. Thank you.
Then I have another project to talk about. I hope that we're still in time. I will just...
Yes, don't worry. Since you're the second, we have time. Don't worry.
Okay, cool. This project was done like earlier, a few months ago, in the second part of 2019. And this is a project we want to talk to you about because, okay, we like it, but also because it's basically one of the first projects that we do in collaboration with Pentagram New York. Giovanni already told you that Giorgia became a partner. Giorgia Lupi, one of the founders of Accurat, became a partner with Pentagram New York last May. And but she asked that she would have liked to keep the collaboration with Accurat, so with the studio that she had built and the team that she was accustomed to work with. So they said yes, and we started a collaboration in the second half of 2019. And in this case, the project was done for the Museum of the City of New York. I had the chance to be there for 3 months supervising the project and to start this collaboration physically. the Museum of the City of New York is a museum which is really grounded in New York, as the name might tell you. So it's basically doing exposition exhibits about New York and New Yorkers. And in this case, the exhibition is about the 2020 American census, so which is ongoing, I guess. And they wanted to map, like, this was the theme, and they asked Georgia to produce a piece for this exhibit, and they gave her basically the bigger piece, so she could play with a lot of space and hardware in a way. What we wanted to do, it was to create like a parallel census in a way. So we had there is the original census, which in many think is no longer really current, really adapt to the kind of complexities that are in today's USA and in today's New York. So Georgia wanted to create another kind of census that could talk about different kind of issues, maybe more personal issues that could try to connect a bit more with the users, and to talk about subjects like individual and collective identity, governmental appropriations, and so on. And so this kind of object that you're seeing is the final output basically of the census. So in a way, Georgia has explored the theme of the data portrait in the past, and she wanted to also create it here because it was pretty on point to create a data portrait. So basically to create a digital but organic alter ego of the user that would come to the exhibit and would take part to the census. These are some preparatory sketches in which Georgia played with color, patterns, textures, and so on. And here we have started playing with those elements in space. The project had basically 3 moments. So it was created before COVID. So we use a touch screen. That is no longer a good idea, but it was in November at least. So the project has basically 3 main moments. The first one being this podium in which the user can take part to the actual census, and so answer quickly the questions. And these questions, every time the user picks an answer to each question, a new layer is added to the object, and every answer has a different visual treatment attached to it. And so you see it, the person could see it create in front of their eyes. And at the end of it, like the medallion or data portrait would be presented to the user and basically launched in front towards like the top of the screen, because it was ideally going towards the wall, to the big projection that you see here. That was the second piece. The projection had basically all the organic data portraits were gathered in this kind of generative cityscape that you see here. So we tried to basically plot them to remind of skylines, because in a way we were rebuilding the city based on the users' answers and the New Yorkers' answers. And so in this part, in this projection, you see all the portraits basically piling up together. They were plotted from left to right, like newest to oldest. And here there is another quick screencast. I hope the quality is good enough for the screen share, but you see the first part was about these cityscapes really colored with the full objects piling up and creating these skylines. And then on the second part of the projection that you should see here, we basically exploded every single object and into its layers. So basically you could map the actual point of views and ideas in these layer maps that add a layer, like every answer was basically represented individually. and we tried to create this kind of diffusion map emotions that in a way created different kind of areas and densities to represent like the different takes of the New Yorkers on the topics that were discussed, that you can see on top and bottom. This is another picture of the map. And at the end, it said there was the last screen had this finished shape on it with a code. And so the user could go to the gift shop and bring like a takeaway home. So we also wanted to have a physical output for this, since the design, the look and feel was pretty physical looking. So we tried to also create this object that the visitor could take away. And you see here some examples. It came with a legend key that was printed out. And that's it.
Very interesting. Wow.
Unfortunately, like the exposition, the exhibit was open on towards the end of November. It ran through like December, January, and then on February, and like all over the world, the museum shut down. So it had it should have gone on until now, so end of June, but we missed the last 4 months of data basically. So it's still there, I guess. So I hope they will like switch it on again.
Yeah, maybe they postponed the end, no?
Yeah, I hope, but they had like a really tight schedule, so there was another exhibit.
Yes,
so
of course.
I'm not sure if
and also all the data got changed because you have so much like less people right now, you know, going.
Yeah,
I think.
But also, I guess many of the questions were pretty personal, and I mean, I guess that COVID also changed the perspective and the kind of answer.
Absolutely.
So yeah, it would be interesting to run it again.
Anybody have a question? We have no, nothing. Okay, so we can go
shy people.
on.
I will leave the sharing
Yes.
to Elisa, which is another nice project.
Yes, thanks. Okay. Oh, a couple of slides before. Okay. Can everybody see?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay, so I'm going to talk to you about a project we did for Starbucks in 2018. So back then, Starbucks opened the first store in Italy, and it wasn't a normal store. It was a reserve roastery. I'm not sure if you're familiar with the difference, but we weren't really. And apparently they have these huge roasteries with an actual coffee roastery inside the store where they roast coffee, and they have all sorts of precious materials and details and attention to details, and the whole concept is totally different. Nothing is green for starts, so it's a whole different brand concept. And they came to us because they wanted to create a storytelling visualization for their brand. It was an experiment they did. And it was actually one of the first projects I think Accurat did, going out of print and digital and into the physical landscape. And we had to understand what could be part of the story, what elements could be added. Of course, the client had so many different ideas and content they wanted to have up there. And the place it was going to be hosted was a huge curved wall. Just after you entered the roasteries, you could find it behind you, behind the facade. And this is an initial sketch in which we started to understand what kind of data we could visualize. In the end, we decided there was so much to tell that we actually decided to layer things in 3 different layers. The first of them is a timeline, where you have all the important steps in Starbucks history, starting from its founder's story, who came to Italy, discovered coffee bars, went back to America, and now finally had a new store in Italy. So closing the loop in a way. And it also has the logo evolution. It has other kinds of important dates for the Starbucks history. The other layer is a map where we try to visualize all the stores, but also all the important places. For example, they have these farmer support centers, they have other reserves roasteries and so on, placing them on a map. And the last layer is the coffee. So they have 22 countries that produce coffee for them. And in this visualization, you can see isolines with the sort of like terrain kind of relief visualization. This is actually from these countries where there are coffee cultivations. And we also changed the positions of these graphs in order to represent the harvesting period and other kinds of data. So adding lots of information regarding the coffee as well. This is one of the final renders before the project was finished. And as you can see, it's backlit with some light. The material is not just a normal wool, but it's actually brass. It's being carved. And here you can see the work in progress. So this was the first time they tried to place this printout to test how the visualization looked like. And it was a huge file to work on, so it was quite challenging. And it was even difficult to test. So for example, font sizes, when you have to work with such a huge wall, that's quite hard. And so we had these sort of printouts we attached to the wall in our office, trying to figure out how it worked. And this was the first brass piece they did. So as you can see, it's carved. So it's not in relief, it's deep down carved in the brass, and some places are holes where it's backlit in the end. And as you can see, the color is not uniform because the whole roastery has a very deep attention to details and material and artisans. So many different professionals actually collaborated for the flooring, for the woodwork, for the marbles, for the brass wool, and then us for the visualization. So it was very interesting to work with these other artisans as well. And it was actually oxidated and then hand, how do you say, levigated? Yeah, they worked on the brass to make it shiny and polish it, while other parts remained a bit more darker.
Wow.
And this is the end result. As you can see, it's this very long, very tall wall. And there is a lot of other interesting details to the building itself. Then there was a second project. So that was the first part. And actually, while, let's say, the final designs were shipped and the wall was being built, they also asked us to add a digital layer to the visualization through an AR app. Basically, what happened was that we tried to create a new way to interact with the visualization through this digital layer of an AR app, allowing users to engage with a visualization, maybe filter it or tap on elements and find out more information. And this added a whole new level to the piece itself. And it was also a chance to translate the content, since it's a very international place and the wall is in Italian. And it was also a chance to add even more content which didn't fit on the wall itself. Also, the app follows these 3 layers of information. So the coffee extrudes the isolines into these 3D terrains. And it also shows these coffee cards, which are actually part of the brand, and how the coffees are branded and sold in the roastery. Those illustrations you see before the extrusion. And user can slide with the slider and highlight the harvesting season of the country. They can also tap on a country and have this page open up and content and flip through the coffee. We decided to have these sort of more traditional web pages because the wall is very tall and we expected a lot of fatigue in a user holding up their device in AR. So we wanted to have these two moments of exploration through the AR and then of more relaxed reading in a more comfortable position with these static web pages, which update with content anyways. And then the other layer is the timeline. Here we have these arcs opening up in 3D in the AR visualization, which connect the years to geographical places on the map. So connecting the geographical layer to the timeline actually. And then clicking on more about this year, you have lots of information, videos, pictures, galleries, and so on. And then the last layer is the map layer, where we have these active points on the map and where you can again reach more content. So some backstories to the project. It was quite a challenge for us. We had never worked, well, we had worked on another AR app, but we had never worked with such kind of AR app. We had some another studio called Monogrid help us with the development side, which was great.
We know them.
Yes.
They were our guests too.
SuperDistrict as well.
Exactly.
Nice. It was very nice to work with them, especially we had a lot of expertise we needed. And when we faced them with the project, they said, okay, you see those on the left are good markers for AR. And they have high contrast, they have a unique directions, they have unique features you can recognize. And on the right, you can see what we had as a market, which is the complete opposite of what a good marker is. So it was backlit, it had reflections, it had very bad contrast except for the backlit surfaces. It was changing during the day because of natural light coming from above, from the ceiling, and as well as the artificial lighting. And it was really, really challenging. And especially it didn't exist while we were developing the app. So basically we designed the whole experience while the wall still had to be built. Hoping that it would work also on the development side. We started with printed markers, and then the Monogrid guys came and they tried to hope that it worked and it, and then in the end it did work and it was amazing. And here you can see a floor map, and this was another challenge. It wasn't just the wall, also the rest of the roastery was still being built. So we hadn't really a good idea of where the experience would take place. And this was a sketch one of the clients did for us, where she said, okay, you see all these yellow areas, here people can't stand, there's too much traffic, too many people, there's the gift shop and people coming inside the entrance. So these purple areas, these pink areas are where your users will be able to experience the app. And many of these places are very far from the wall. So the content you see is actually anchored to the wall. And if something is very far away, it's going to be super small. So the areas where we could actually expect users to engage were very limited. And we weren't really sure in the end where they would be standing, because this was just a sketch. They said, yes, you know, the gift shops, they are wheels, so they can move around even. So everything was very guessed, but in the end the clients are very happy with the result, and we actually had a talk with them even during this quarantine period, lockdown period, with some of them, giving some additional details of the app and the project to the staff, because nobody really knows that the app is there because they didn't really print out information about it or such, but they have a very present staff there. So they usually suggest to people who linger there for a while that, hey, you know what, there's also an AR app, why don't you download it and try that out as well.
That's nice. I think it's even better than print out. Sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, it's maybe for less users, but at the same time, they maybe target those who are not in a rush and might enjoy that additional part of the experience.
Okay, so okay, go on. So.
Yeah, that's it. That was the last slide.
Okay, there is a question from Diane. Diane, you can go.
Hi, I wanted to ask about the process. At the beginning of each project, how do you go about breaking down really complex information to start designing?
It depends a bit on the project, but in general, well, from an experience design perspective, maybe Giovanni can explain more about the data visualization one. We do a lot of maps and architecture and breaking down things and really understanding not just the brief itself, but also the context of the client. So what they are doing, what they really want to do, and maybe they don't really know what they want to do. So sometimes we try to figure that out for them with various methods. So workshops are very useful for that, interviews as well, other kinds of jobs to be done on those kinds of systems are things we always try to experiment and see what fits best for the client and figure out how to break things down and then understand everything. Sometimes I even go in like looking at the databases themselves, even if I'm not a data visualization designer, because it's very useful to understand what can be done, for instance.
Yeah, I think that what it is I said was perfect. Actually, one of the most interesting parts in our job is that we had to try to understand the complexity of the project that we are working on, and it's kind of fun because actually we are not expert in finance or stuff like this. We are used to work in different fields, so we have to get familiar with the topic. So what we try to do is to talk a lot with the client, try to layer down information depending on accordingly to the messages that the client are looking for. So maybe first kind of information has to appear in this way. We get a second message or a third message, so we can try to layer down information in that way. So it's always a process about getting to know the topic that we are working on and trying to understand it as well as good and as well enough to make it understandable and explorable for other people. So as I said in the beginning, we don't like the idea of simplifying complexity. We prefer to make it readable. So we have to find a way to make the experience drive the user to, let's say, from a high level point of view to the detail of everything.
Okay, I think they answered pretty well. Okay, guys, thank you so much. Thank you, Giovanni. Thank you so much, Tommaso. Thank you, Elisa. It was amazing. Yeah. We're very, very happy to have you here for the last event of this very full week. And thank you to all the participants, to all the people that were with us on this week and today. And we hope to see you soon, for maybe other talks or SuperDistrict or let's say, or just to meet you in Milan.
Or in New York.
Or New York. Would be great.
Hopefully.
And thank you so much and have a good night, all of you. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ciao.
Bye-bye.
Bye, thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.